This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Martin from the Accelerator team, and I'm here for the next episode of the Business Stuff Podcast. I'm here with Jessica Williams. Hi, Jessica, how are you doing?
Morning. Very well.
Jessica, you're from Just Williams, and you're a sales and marketing agency.
That's right.
Do you want to just give us a 30-second intro, who you are, what you do?
Yeah.
And then we'll take it from there, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
So, Just Williams was founded about 8.5 years ago. So we're a sales and marketing organisation. Haven't always been the case. Started life in sales and progressed to marketing probably about 3.5 years ago. Okay. Based down in Teesside, but cover the north of England. So we work with owner managers looking at how they can grow the business, grow their profile, increase their customer lifetime value and grow their market presence. Okay,
so you've dropped some interesting terms in already. Out of interest, most people, or some people watching this will think, well, what's the difference between sales and marketing anyway? Is it worth just separating that?
Yeah,
you opened that door.
That's a strong question to start with, right?
Well, you opened it.
Yeah, to be fair, I did. So sales and marketing have always been very different disciplines, but I believe that they're getting closer and closer together. Sales, for me, is all around the conversion. Marketing is all around the brand visibility, but the two very much have to meet
so
and
you
have
use
to
one
coexist.
to attract the opportunity to do the other?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why after 4 years, from speaking to our customers, we needed to embrace them, both of them together, because they've got to work harmoniously.
You've got to look at the whole, I mean, funnels, pipeline are all terms that people use now, but you've got people who are not known to the business. You've got to turn them somehow into, from anyone, into suspects and into prospects. And somewhere between that, marketing turns into sales, doesn't it?
I think the lines are being blurred. I like the word suspects, hence why I was smiling. But
so are you going to use that from now on?
Yeah, I'm going to use suspects. I think we live in a world that's so noisy. There's so many more. Marketing and sales has become even more complicated and complex in the last 10 years. And the way in which
so
it's changing
many new
is
platforms
huge.
and ways of doing it. Yeah.
And our concentration levels decreasing. Our expectation is increasing. There are so many more organisations operating in similar spaces, so the competition levels increasing. So we've got to find a way as organisations to cut through that. So to cut through the noise, to continue to develop relationships, and to operate in quite a difficult world as it is now.
Well, and I'm sure you go through this, but with when you turn your suspects into prospects and you're trying to persuade them to use your services, so you're of course selling and marketing your own services. But if you're sitting down with a business, I mean, I've got a lot of areas we could go into here, but where do you start? If a person watching this thinks, well, I don't really do any of this, but I would like to, where would they start? Because there's lots of things you could do, but you need to pull together a plan of.
You do, and it's like anything, and I do appreciate that the word strategy can be overused, but we always start with the strategy. So
well, I'm glad you do, because that's what I wrote down first.
There
strategy.
You go. One sec. I can't read your writing.
Oh, that's. I'm just going to hide it anyway to make sure.
But you've got to. The first thing that you've got to understand is who is your client profile. So what do your client profiles look like? And that's the same in sales or marketing. It doesn't matter what those are, but who is it you're trying to target, and really, really refine those, define those, get an absolute list of non-negotiables in terms of who you're looking to work with. And from the back of that, you can map out a lot. So you can map out key prospects, and a lot of it's for the size of the clients that we deal with. It's based on the kind of larger prospects and larger client deals rather than transactional. So it's on a B2B basis, and we deal at director level. But you've got to understand who your target audience is, because from a sales and marketing perspective, if you don't know who you're talking to, then you're just making noise.
Noise is probably part of the answer to my question I was going to ask as follow-up there. What's the danger of not getting that profile? I don't know if you noticed on the way in, but those 3 pictures behind you are where we did this as an example, and we came up with
Yeah.
What do they look like?
Yeah.
So when people talk about client profile in an accountancy firm, you might say, well, we need people in business. But that's too wide, isn't it? It's like, what kind of business? What age demographic? Where do they live? What hobbies? Is that something you would go through with someone?
Yeah, it is, and I think we look at it on a B2B perspective as well. So yeah, absolutely. It's really about refining those. So whether it be, a lot of our clients tend to be in the kind of built environment, construction space. So for us, it's about really understanding the profile of those organisations and the decision makers that land within those.
Yeah.
So the more specific you can be, the better it can be. And it's not about volume. Our average kind of client size is our client size or transactional value is quite high. So it's not about having thousands and thousands of data lines. It's about having some really key quality organisations. The decision makers, you can target them easily, but we tend to say you don't want more than 3 to 5 client profiles. Yeah. So that's the kind of max that you want, really, to make it manageable.
That was something else I was going to go on to. So and again, it's easier for me just to reference Robson Laidler. So, we've got 100 people across a couple of offices. We've got multiple teams. We need to try and attract lots of different suspects to turn into prospects. What would you say for a firm like ours? This wasn't this way to get a consultation, by the way, but what
wouldn't be the first time, Martin, don't worry.
But what would you say to businesses who think, but I haven't got a single or only a couple? Because I do something else where I go to a business meeting where you're encouraged to be specific about who you want to speak to, and people go, but I can't be specific. I do utilities.
You always can be
Everybody
specific.
needs utilities.
But who's your ideal? So we'll use that as an example. So it's not about who you want to talk to, because you're right, you can talk to anybody, but it's who is that ideal client. So if you had one organisation in the Northeast that you would absolutely love to work with, who is that? What is the actual name of that organisation? And that's a great place to start. So if you can highlight who that if you won that client.
The holy grail of client is.
Absolutely. If you won that, how good would that be? And then you map it backwards. So, okay, so
so you walk back from the victory, tell the journey of what you did to win them.
Or look at who that company are. What makes them great? Are they multi-site? Are they expanding? Are they getting investment? Do they have a certain number of employees? Do they have a certain turnover? What is it? Is it B Corp or is it values based?
Yeah.
It depends on what is it that made you want to work with them. And once you can ascertain that, and you probably need a list of 7 to 10 non-negotiables. So some of them might be payment terms, some of them might be values. Yes. They're different. It might be, as I say, multi-site, or they're looking at expanding outside the UK. But if you can understand what those non-negotiables are, you can go, okay, so that's what I want really. That's the specific. And then you have to be quite strict, because otherwise you can have thousands of prospects.
You might win your target, which actually isn't. If you ignore 2 or 3 of those non-negotiables, you end up just with a client you don't really want. It's not the right client after all, is it?
We know as well as the value of clients come because of the longevity of them, not because of the initial transaction.
Yeah.
So if you want a client, is it for the deal or is it for the long term? We do a lot of work with.
There might be people out there who are just deal specific.
Yeah.
But again, what you're saying is you think about not just what you want initially from someone.
Yeah, and we do with the Sales Academy, the separate business. We do a lot of training, and a huge amount of that at the moment has been on customer lifetime value. Because if you look at the cost to acquire a new customer versus retaining an existing customer is huge. And I think we all think, if we want to grow, then we have to get new business, we have to get new customers. But actually, not
losing is a great way to do it, isn't it?
Absolutely, but we forget our existing customers.
Because if you can keep your existing customers and just add the odd 1 or 2, here we go, just. Yeah. Nice and easy. And the good thing about that is you're more efficient with the customers you've already got.
Absolutely.
So you're not having to upskill, retrain, hand
they
over,
they
onboard.
Trust you. Yeah. And I think as well, if you think about what I always say is, you look at Robson Laidler as a great example is, some of your customers, how long have you guys been going now?
102 years.
Okay.
We've got some clients who've been with us about 60 years.
Right, so do you offer the same services now that you did even 20 years ago?
No, not remotely.
But some of your customers will presume that you do. So we presume that our customers know everything about us, and that's often incorrect. Whereas if our customers took, on average, 4 products from us or services, but actually you'd like them, and when you map out that ideal client profile, it's 6 or 7, you've got scope for growth. And I always say, if you can map out 10% growth from your existing clients, what difference would that make to your bottom line?
Because again, that's so much easier. They know who you are when you call them to talk about something.
And they're with you for a reason. But you can't get complacent with that.
No, I get that, but you're not. It's a warmed introduction because you're already in touch. You're not trying to get an intro via someone else or try and attract them. You've already got them. So we've talked about who, we've got a client profile, we've talked about the dangers of mixing your profiles, and I suppose shooting yourself in the foot if you let that profile go and you take someone who doesn't fit the profile. Who should be responsible for marketing within a business then? And again, we'll have people who are watching who
you just like these difficult questions, don't you?
Well, yeah. That's why we don't come here for the easy stuff. We want good advice. So there's often a single person business, or it might be 100, or there might be 1,000. So who's the key person? Yeah.
I mean, again, great question. And actually, if I can answer that from a sales and a marketing perspective,
Please
if
do,
I may,
yeah.
We all have titles. We all have role definitions to a certain extent, but and some of us have more, more focus in particular areas. So if you are a sales manager, and your job description is around managing people and managing targets, and that's the majority of where your time's going to be spent. That doesn't mean that somebody that is in accounts or that is answering the phone or that's on reception isn't responsible for customer engagement, sales and marketing as well. We are all brand ambassadors of an organisation.
Everything's a sale, isn't it?
Everything's customer engagement, and you look at touch points that a customer or a prospect can have with an organisation. It's from every aspect. So it's not just the responsibility of the sales manager or the marketing manager to bring in new business, to look after existing customers and to promote the business. It's every single person that's within the organisation. I always think when someone joins an organisation, they sign up to become a brand ambassador, and that embodies sales and marketing in all its aspects.
It's interesting because in the accountancy world, there's a chap who does a lot of this, a guy called James Ashford, and he talks about how sales is a dirty word, and it's not my job to sell. You can get a lot of that in the accountancy world, and he kind of turns it, and he says you're not selling something to someone, you're helping them. Just so happens that it's a chargeable service that you're delivering, but you've got a moral obligation to help your customers and your clients, haven't you? So if you see someone struggling, why would you not say we can help with that? So, but then everyone needs to be able to know what that offer looks like and what they need to do with it, don't they?
Do you know what we're really... It's a really interesting discussion, actually, the word sales, because my ethos behind my business is professionalising the sales industry, because I really believe that there is no entry criteria. We have to create that. And I have battled for years around, do you use the word sales? Because ultimately that's what it is. But we still have such a negative association with it.
Not many people say I'm a salesman.
No, they don't. No.
But yet that is what you might be. But it's just, as soon as you say salesman, you think of second-hand cars. And double glaze and door knockers, don't you?
I mean, salespeople as a whole, it's not a profession that people say I want to be a salesperson, but certainly, as I say, if you look at it, it doesn't matter from your perspective. Look at all the businesses that you deal with. If they can't sell, they've got a business at the end of the day. So you might not like the phrase or not.
Best cup in the world, but nobody knows about it.
So it's a cliche kind of subject, but because it lacks the credentials, because it lacks that professional, because there is still that negative association, then there's time for it to change. But I'm kind of saying firm in terms of it is called sales, and for us, sales is about transformation, not about transactional. And that sounds really fluffy, and I don't mean it to, but we never sell for the sake of selling, and we never promote selling for the sake of selling. It's got to be ethical. It's got to be done the right way. Selling is essential for any organisation, whether you like the phrase or not. And I think we get really het up by, it's that hard sell, it's that car sales, it's whatever it is, whereas actually all it is about customer relationships. It's about having conversations, it's about really understanding, signposting, providing solutions and doing the right thing. That's
identifying a need and matching to a product or service, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Which doesn't have to be unethical.
Oh God, no. And neither should it be.
The fact that so many people see it as kind of a negative word, then, Jessica, is that just an indicator that there are so many bad salespeople out there? Everyone's had that. experience where you feel like someone's getting really rammed at you?
I think they have. I hope that's less and less now, but you're absolutely right. I think we've all unfortunately had that negative experience, whether it be over the phone or in person, but look at customer service as a whole. What's your definition of the difference between sales and customer service? Because, for example, if you go to a restaurant, when was the last time you had great customer service? It's sometimes quite difficult to think of a time.
It's interesting you mentioned this. I was listening to a podcast not long ago. It was Simon Sinek has a podcast, and he was talking about a restaurant owner in New York, and he was talking about the difference between. So he said, if you go to a restaurant and you drop your napkin and the waiter picks it up, you think that's customer service. He's like, I don't think that's customer. I think that's the bare minimum expectation. And he set a really high level of what he would call good customer service. It was more than just doing the bare minimum. And I can't remember the other word that he talked about, but it was really not a very interesting point there. Sorry, but it was really interesting
no,
that when you talk about what is customer service and what's selling, it's closer than you think, but it's not just the bare minimum, is it? Because you can answer the phone and go, yeah, what do you want? I'll put you through. Yeah. Well, that's bare minimum, but still technically customer service, isn't it? In the literal sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got you to the person you wanted. But everyone knows as soon as I give that ridiculous example, you go, yeah, but that's not very good customer service, is it? But people don't often define the difference between that basic and the
they don't. And when you look at, again, I've been writing some training this morning on account management, retention, customer lifetime value, customer service and sales. And actually, when you look at all of them, the definitions are very, very similar. You put the customer at the heart, You're finding a solution, in essence. You're doing the best to serve. When you look at all of those kind of when you look at all of those phrases, there is a key theme in terms of we're trying to assist the customer in whatever way that is, suspect, prospect, customer, whatever phrase, we're putting them at the heart and we're trying to do our best to serve them. So, I think we get het up on the word sales, but actually it's about, like you said, it's about providing the best possible service, it's about providing solutions, it's about providing opportunities for that organisation and adding value, and I think that's really, really key. You've got to add value at every stage. But customer service is unfortunately not something that we experience particularly, or great customer service not particularly often these days. Yeah, it's interesting. You threw us with the last comment there because I was thinking of something else. But when we're talking about who, and I suppose, is it fair to say everyone in an organisation is responsible in some way for this? How do you then get that across to people who kind of go, but I'm not a salesperson. Like, this isn't like, I do just answer the phone. I do just sit there. I do just, I think we should see ourselves as customer care rather than sales and marketing. I think we all, everybody is responsible for their form of engagement with the end user. And if you think about, when you look at, rather than customers, look at stakeholders. Customers are one of your stakeholders, but actually you've got lots of other ones, and we're all responsible for those in lots of different ways. And actually some of your stakeholders can influence your customers, so actually, and every single person in the organisation is dealing with one stakeholder or another. Whether it's an internal sale, you're helping another department within the same organisation. It's multifaceted in that regard. Care is an interesting addition there to the conversation, because care implies that you'll do more than the basic, doesn't it? Absolutely. It does, and I think care for something or someone is to do more than just the basic. I think we've got to look at our customers in a different way. And when you look at sales is for existing customers and new customers, internal and external. Sales is about every single shareholder, really, if you think about it. Because I don't know about you, but I want to create an organisation that people want to come and work for. I want to create an organisation that people want to supply. Be a local supplier for. I want to be an organisation that customers want to work with. I want to be an organisation that organisations want us to come and talk for them. Aspire to be like, or exactly. So they're all our customers. That's all sales. So the way that I position myself as a business, the way that my staff work, the way that my team work, is we've got to create that level of care for every single stakeholder in the organisation. Where do you start there then? Because interestingly, you said, do you mind if I take a picture? Off camera here is our behaviours guide, our purpose, our mission, our vision.
they're not there accidentally. I keep them there for those days when I'm counting to 10 slowly and remembering that I need to, do some of these things. We try and have these in everyone's mind. Yeah. I'm not saying we succeed, but we kind of want to make sure that everyone is aware of what we're trying to do as a business.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a danger sometimes that businesses kind of say, well, this is what we're going to do, and they don't necessarily bring their teams with them?
Absolutely, and I think that touches on a point of around culture, very much so, and I think it's really important with things like that, behaviour guide values, whatever they are, that they're not just stickers on the wall, that they're not just words, that they're, that the customer really, or your stakeholders are at the heart of everything that you do. They've got to be, you've got to put them first. And, care, as I say, we'll pick up that word again, is such a key aspect, whether that be for your internal colleagues or for your external customers. If you don't care about them, then you're never going to do the right thing. And the right thing is for sales as well, is that you're providing them solutions, is that you're positioning them in the right way. Yeah, absolutely.
So care and help again go hand in hand almost, don't they? Yeah.
And this is where I suppose we're trying to be really different in regards to, unfortunately different, because I believe everyone should do this, is sales has got a negative reputation because it hasn't always had these values, and it's been transactional, and it's been really fast-paced, it's been target-based, absolutely, and I disagree with all of that. Our KPI, our key performance indicators as a business, one of them is financial, The rest of them are completely nothing to do with the financial aspect. It's got to be about putting the people at the heart of what you do, and that's around the values, that's around the culture of the organisation, and everybody should take equal amount of responsibility in terms of customer care. Some of them have got more responsibility for caring in terms of bringing new opportunities in. That doesn't mean you care for your customers any less. Others have got a responsibility for solving existing customer issues. Again,
delivering on the promises made.
But if you do a good job,
it's all
ask for a referral. For your existing customer care. It doesn't matter what department you're in.
How many just anecdotally, or if you measure this, then what percentage? But when you start working with businesses, how many of those businesses have a customer referral program in place and working?
15% less.
So not many.
Very, very few. Everyone knows referrals, but we're very British and we don't like to ask.
It's awful, isn't it? There's a lot of subjects you just don't talk about.
There are some organisations, some networking organisations, I was part of one years ago, and they literally are that brutal in terms of they'll just ask for exactly who they want to talk to. But you know what? It's again, each their own. But there's a lot to be said for just saying what it is that you want, And asking for referral, you can't just say, like we were talking about client profiles, I'd like to pass me any lead, just pass me anybody. No, if you're specific, if you ask for somebody specifically, And I think I'm from Yorkshire and Shybones now, so I think if you know you're delivering a great job, if you know you're delivering a great service, what's the harm in asking?
What's the line again with that British Reserve? Boasting is, you shouldn't boast, you shouldn't think that, you shouldn't self-gratulate, you shouldn't. Do you think there's an element of that? I can't ask Jessica for an intro because then that's admitting that I must be doing a good job and I can't be seen to do. What do you think's behind that?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think we are, we can be a little bit nervous to do that. I think a lot of it is just, we're just uncomfortable. We just don't like doing that,
And yet once you've done it,
it's okay. It's okay.
Not that bad,
you have to pick and you have to pick and choose, and again.
And to be fair, you should only ask for introductions from people who fit your profile.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the hope is that they will hang around with people like them.
Exactly.
So you ask your best customers for introductions, not your worst customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in all of the kind of sales, marketing, customer aspect of things. Is you've got to add value at all times, because if you don't, somebody else will. And in a world where it's so noisy,
because everyone is always snipping at your best customers.
Oh, of course they are.
Because our best customers are somebody else's holy grail customer.
Absolutely.
Or
if you don't look after them, someone else will. So you've got to have a very, very clear plan and a customer journey in regards to how you're going to maintain your existing customers, how you're going to add value to them. And when I say add value, I don't necessarily mean the conventional term that maybe you as accountants would perceive, or from me as a sales and marketing perspective. But what do you know about them, right? And the key question that I always ask all of my training clients is, how well do you know your customers? Yeah. And I think we all presume that we do, and every single person I ask that will say really well.
Do you mean Do you mean that literally or figuratively?
And
I don't mean to be picky here, but so you know, we're you know, the 100 strong team. We've got thousands of clients. Someone here will know them all, but not necessarily the business owner has to know every customer.
No.
So it's just that someone needs to know enough about them.
So I would say, you know, you always, it's difficult, and but I categorise, you know, I think you have to categorise customers when you've got above a certain threshold, you know, and you do need to know certain key things about them, again, not only for your own benefit, but for theirs as well, to allow you to add value. So, you know, if you operate on portfolios, or, you know, if you've got kind of, you know, 25, you know, to 50 customers, you need to know about them, and it's not just about the name or when the business was formed, or, you know, it's about things that make them tick. Because there's a quote that I always use, that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
How you made them feel, yeah.
And it's a Maya Angelou quote, and it's so true, because, you know, it's about how people go above and beyond that makes us loyal. It's about how people leave us feeling that makes us loyal. It's about how people, you know, interact with us and remember the little things that makes a difference.
I might pick you up wrong here, but it sounds to me like you're talking about caring about the non-purely transactional things.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So when I emailed someone the other day who borrowed something off me a while ago, who had been struggling to get dates together, I know he's got a daughter, I know he's been unwell. So it's like, how's your health and how's the bairn? And he's a client as well. And so, you know, like, and I always think knowing basic things about people other than, oh, well, he buys accounts and payroll from us. Like, that
Which
isn't
one do you
enough,
think is
is
more
it?
important to him?
Oh, he couldn't care less that he buys payroll from us.
He could buy it from anywhere.
Yeah.
What matters, what makes the difference is that you value those things.
People buy from people, which is a cliche, but it's so true.
And you spend the time asking those, and, you know,
it took me no time to ask either. No. It's just very simple.
In a day and age where, you know, we hide behind emails and we forget to pick up the phone and we forget that human interaction, you know, it's just about volume, and, you know, with so many of us are focused on, you know, productivity levels just going up and up and up. We're removing the ability of customer care.
Well, I think care, honestly, I think is my big takeaway, because I was talking earlier, we had a team meeting, and there was a couple of us in the meeting, and I said it's quite interesting, because I feel like on one hand we will go way beyond expected service levels for clients who leave it till right at the last minute to give us information. We'll break our back, we'll almost kill ourselves to do something for someone who, not that they don't deserve it, but they haven't helped themselves. But we'll be like, no one's left behind, we'll get you over the line. And then ironically, we'll sometimes send an email to someone and then it's not that we don't care, and that sounds awful there, but we'll say, oh, well, but I've emailed you 2 weeks ago, well, it's due tomorrow. It's like, why do you not just pick the phone up?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've clearly not saw the email or missed it, or I've got an issue. And so on one hand, we seem to go way beyond what you'd expect, but then sometimes we miss the very basics.
And also
I think
things
care
like,
is the difference.
Well, care and communication. So care, communication and consistency.
But if you care about whether that thing gets done, you're more likely to chase it up, aren't you?
Think about the way that you communicate, though, because we presume that everyone reads emails.
Oh yeah, well, I say to everyone, if you send me an email, drop me a text while you're on, because I'm more likely to then, and it's not that I don't read my email, but certain things I definitely don't want to miss. And in a day, you know, I might get 200 emails in a day, and with the best will in the world, things miss. There's just no way around it.
One of the key things is about really, you know, listening and being receptive to what people tell you. You know, people tell you a huge amount of information about themselves without even realising. Yeah. It's your ability to retain that information. I've just admitted that I'm hopeless at email, haven't I? Yeah. No, not at all. But, you know, we were talking earlier about books before we started. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's the ability to kind of go, saw this and thought of you when a new book's released. You know, my team have a budget for each customer that they can spend however they want. You know, it's customer care. It's around, you know, and it's about the small things. And we have a philosophy which is BBMT, which is brilliant basics, magic touches. Yes. So it's about how you can have minimal commercial impact, but maximum impact from a customer's perspective. So, you know, what does that look like? You know, is it a saw this and thought of you? It's those little things that make a difference.
I sent one of my clients a pair of socks with foxes on, because
tell me more.
Everything about it is fox. You know, he's got fox in the business name. you know, it doesn't collect necessarily, but anytime I see a fox out and about, I thought, oh, that's easy, pair of socks. Sent it off, thanks very much, you know, very gratefully received.
Yeah.
Cost us a couple of quid.
Exactly.
We could have sent £100 bottle of champagne,
and it wouldn't have had the same
and it
impact.
wouldn't have been the same,
It's
because a
personalisation.
bottle of champagne is generic.
And if you think about, again, we keep coming back to noise, the world that we operate on, there's so many social media platforms, we're inundated with information. We lack that personalisation now that's not algorithm based, right? So when people put the thought in, it means so much more, and it doesn't have to cost a lot. It's about making the effort and putting the thought in, and it's that's what matters. That's the basis of a relationship.
Of course it is.
It's going that extra mile. And so when we go back to customer care,
because you wouldn't think twice about doing that for someone you care about, would you? You would do that for someone you cared about.
So why wouldn't you do it for your customers?
Because we haven't called it customer care, we've called it client service.
There you go.
Service sounds to me a functional,
service can
procedural.
be transactional to a certain extent, but it's about customer
Whereas
care.
That care is a different attitude. I like that.
There you go.
If nothing else, that was worth hearing. So thanks for that.
There you go. It's quite all right. I'll send you the bill in the post.
Just to rewind, then you mentioned targets earlier. And targets are always an interesting thing for me, because sales, you know, if you're playing, you know, word association game, and I said sales, you would normally go target.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people would.
Yeah.
It's that closely linked, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Good word, that word association game. I haven't played that for a while.
Mallet. I don't know what age you are, but remember Timmy Mallet?
Tim. I was about to say
used to
Tim.
hit people over the head with a mallet.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry audience.
Slight digression.
We've got a no nostalgia rule on here as well, and I keep breaking it. James, I'll give you a Google link later. James has no idea what I'm talking about, probably. So targets, I think there's a danger with targets that if your internal KPIs don't reflect the things you want to have in, they won't happen. So if all you have is a pure sales target without profitability attached, for instance, let me paint a brief scenario where I just say sell as many of them as you can. I don't care. I want you to sell 1 million of these. If you say
ridiculous target.
If you say, do you want 1 million cups for a penny? You'll sell them tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you've ignored the profitability
Absolutely.
side. Yeah. So that was just to paint a ridiculous scenario. But equally, people set sales targets or turnaround targets and don't provide for that care breather.
Yeah.
So if you can force this out of your business by setting the wrong targets, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think
I haven't got time for that.
KPIs are key performance indicators or metrics or whatever form you use are really important. And I've been in sales in some way or another, or customer care for all my life really, and I've always operated on targets. So I'm not suggesting that you don't need to have them. Interestingly, I did a post today on LinkedIn around the 2 key questions that I'm absolutely sick of being asked, which is
how big are you? How big's your team?
How many people do you employ, and what's your turnover? Again, utterly pointless metrics, because I can employ 100 people on 0-hour contracts. So I can turn over 60 million and make a 0.2% margin.
And interestingly, that's the point with the target. Yeah. You can set a target that's arbitrary.
Exactly.
But
so
it's not achieving it
has to have. So I have 5 KPIs in a business on an annual basis. One is financial and it's based on growth, but there's a margin associated with it, and there's an association with that in terms of retention. So existing customers and new business, that the new business has to be in line with our client profiles.
Not just any business.
Absolutely, because anyone, to a certain extent, you can grow your business.
Because I would say it's easy to missell, I don't mean missell, but it's easy to sell the wrong thing to your non-target.
If your target is volume, then you can sell that, but what about your margin, and what about the longevity? So if it's a one-off order, And
the people go, oh, well, obviously I wouldn't do that. But they do.
Yeah,
they take on the wrong client purely because they've got a growth. And you're like,
don't get me wrong here. We've all done that, and we all have to do that occasionally. And I absolutely get that. In the first few years,
you've got to at least be aware of it. You've got to be self-aware.
You have. And I think, you've got to, when you look at, if you want sustainable growth, because that's what hopefully we're all after, is it's growth on a sustainable basis. You've got to look at the longevity of that customer spend. So you want to put your resource into those ideal customer profiles that are going to give you that longevity of spend. And that's the key for me in terms of KPIs, is it's not quick wins, it's not about hitting your targets. I don't pay bonuses based on targets. I don't believe in it, because I think it drives the wrong behaviours.
Well,
And for me, metrics have got to be, our metrics are around customer engagement and retention. Our metrics are around, we became a B Corp a couple of months ago, and a huge part of that is around our environmental aspects. One of our KPIs is around community and customer, our community-led activities.
That outreach kind of.
And it's about the impact that you have as a business, It's not necessarily, like I said today, about,
sounds
your
almost
turnover.
like responsible capitalism there.
Doesn't it? Honestly, shocking.
Gotta be careful.
But I think your metrics, from a sales and marketing perspective, have got to be balanced in regards to what you're trying to achieve as a business. You've got, we all want to grow, but how do you grow?
Yeah.
Are you growing in a responsible way? Are you growing in a sustainable way? Are you growing in line with who you're trying to target? And are you growing based on a longevity of spend rather than a quick win? Like you say, some clients you're going to work with because of the deals, get that. But in an ideal world, you probably want their business or one of their associates' business later down the line. So that's your ideal client, not just that deal.
Yeah.
And no sales and marketing should be based on that perspective.
Because there's no guarantee of the second order either,
exactly.
is there? The first order has to go well to get the second order. So your job isn't finished when they've said yes.
And you're never going to get the second order if you've priced it at such a low margin to get the deal over the line, to get your KPI and get your bonus.
That you can't deliver the second one because you're not there.
One anyway.
Yeah.
So that's about short-term gain and there's no long-term benefit in that. So for me, that's why KPIs can't just be on metrics. And the other thing that I always see, which really frustrates me, is when people have a sales target and they don't split it between new business and existing business.
Yeah, the upsell versus the new sell. Yeah.
Yeah, there are loads of stats out there. It can be anywhere, you can see, for between 10 and 130% more expensive to attract a new customer than to retain an existing. So you can't have one sales target, you've got to split it. So I want to see an uplift on growth for every single customer of at least 10% every year. And I also want a new business target. But I want the new business target to incorporate potential spend, not spend in just the first 12 months.
Yeah.
So my kind of KPIs I'm complicating them slightly, but trying to simplify them.
But I suppose what you're painting there, though, Jessica, is the need for a proper review per business, depending on what you're selling, who you're selling it to. There isn't, so you can't just download. This isn't like you can't just go into Microsoft Excel and say file new from template, KPIs. It's not that simple, is it?
No.
Can I take you into a slightly, possibly different area?
Of course you can.
Obviously, brand means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not suggesting that we get into brand, but if we just assume that it's important for the business to have a brand, a voice, to look and feel a certain way, where do you stand on then the business brand versus the personal brand?
Honestly, you've got some mic drop questions
just to give you an easy one.
And just give
and
some
if I give you an
coffee.
example, for instance, everyone will know who Alan Sugar is, but probably most people won't have a clue what his businesses are these days.
True.
Whereas, Branson, you kind of, again, is a massive personal following, even for people who will never buy his things. But also, we all know what Virgin do. And you tend to but using then again a normal business, just us, for instance, where do you stand on the idea of personal brand versus? It's
again, really fascinating topical question, and I think we've both seen the emergence of organisations in the last 3 years that specialise in personal brand in the region, and for somebody like myself who set up a business, actually it's now almost separating the personal and the professional, because
especially your names, isn't it? It's like
stupid thing to do. Yeah, never call yourself the name. And to be fair, in my defence, Just Williams is after the book Just William, rather than actually
but you added the S at the end, though. That's your name, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Point taken. Not an ego project.
I suppose the danger is then people go and I want to speak to Jessica because she must be the person. We don't have that. Robson and Laidler are long gone many years ago.
Yeah. But you've still got that name association, and I think it is difficult for business owners, and I think there is a time and a place where you do have to kind of separate the two. Going back to, I suppose, to personal brand again, I think we've all got a responsibility to our own personal brand in the way that we portray ourselves, from a professional perspective. I think it's difficult with things like LinkedIn profiles, because obviously you're representing an organisation there, but it's a personal kind of profile.
Because you see a lot of people, tweets are
my own views.
My own, not it's not only council workers and government body workers, to be fair, but there's a lot of people say that. And is that them kind of acknowledging that, I don't really know where I sit here, so I better make it clear?
I think we're all probably sit on the fence a little bit with those types of things. I think you always ultimately, when you work for an organisation, it doesn't matter what you do in or out of work, you unfortunately are representing that brand.
You're reflected either way, aren't you?
You are.
Even if you say
that or not.
Personal views.
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't want to work for, you don't necessarily want to be associated with somebody that has complete opposite views to an organisation.
And that doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong. We're not judging the view.
No, not at all.
What we're saying is, people will want to work with people like them, won't they?
They will, and therefore, that's why people do buy from people,
So how do you balance that then? Because I can't remember the book now. I think it's Seth Rogen wrote a book called Purple Cow, probably 25 years ago. And in there he talks about, you see field after field after field of just normal sheep and cows.
Yeah.
And they're almost nothing to anyone. Or something to everyone, and neither one of them is that attractive. You want to be the thing that has either raving fans or haters. And it's kind of like that bland bit in the middle, the Alan Sugar bit, I would say, isn't that appealing, and it's hard to get anywhere when you're trying to be everything to everyone. So do you think there needs to be a bit of that personal bit out there?
I'm a big believer, and this is just my stance in terms of, I think...
Your views are just your own, not necessarily the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is my stance, not the business
Not the businesses, which is my business, but no. Is that you've got to be authentic. I think, and it's a word that's been overused, but, I spent a long time, I think a lot of people did, trying to blend in with a corporate norm. Won't do that anymore. Don't need to do that anymore. I'm happy to be myself, and I'm professional at all times in regards to that. But I am more than just a business owner. I am more than any label that you want to give me. I do obviously lots of adventurous things and running and stuff like that. I'm more than that person, and that is who you engage with as the person that you buy from.
Engage with the whole person, don't you?
Absolutely. And I think more of us are, and there's that fine line between, what we put on social media and what we don't. And that is about, you've got to use some form of decorum to be able to ascertain what's professional and what's personal, and blend that well. But actually, we want to know about the people we're buying for. We want to know about the people that we're engaging a relationship with. I'm not asking you for, personal details.
Yeah.
And the one rule of sales is don't be weird. Don't overshare and don't be weird.
I like that. Have you got any examples of weird
oversharing? Far too many examples of that. But people
I use this myself. Here's a picture of me using it. Like, what do you
honestly,
need?
I have so many weird examples. But you've got to, if you want to develop a relationship with people, they want to know a bit about you.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So share that. Again, you can control what you can share. Don't be weird. Don't share too much, but share a little bit, because if that's what you're expecting of them, that's how relationships are formed.
Because how do you expect to get to know someone?
You can't.
And again, I'm going to bang on about it, sorry Jessica, but the care. How are you expecting to care about someone if you don't know anything about them? And equally, how do you expect them to care passionately about buying from you if they know nothing about you?
There's no customer loyalty if they don't know you, you know? So, if you, again, I'm not suggesting that you tell people everything about you, and you can control that. And I'm not suggesting that you have to let people know everything about your private life.
You haven't got to give them the access to your Nest cameras.
You don't. See, that's the weird things I was talking about. Do you know what I mean? It's like, honestly, I've got some brilliant stories. But it's about knowing
once
them
the camera goes off, by the way.
The fox socks that you said?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean. It's little things like that. So it's about, I think the personal and professional brand is you can't be someone completely different at work to what you are at home, because that's not sustainable and that's not great for anyone.
It's hard work as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Who wants to wear a mask all day and pretend to be someone? Just on this final point then, because there's 2 times in this chat where I think you've talked about things that maturing businesses become able to do. Say no to the wrong client. It's very hard when you're just starting. And being yourself. It's very hard when you're starting. Do you accept that there's a maturity of, I don't want to make it sound like an old thing, but there is a point where it's easier to say no to the wrong client and to be that little bit quirky. Not weird, but to be yourself.
I do.
Do you think do you think it's possible to start a business and have those in place right from the start?
Yeah, I do, if to a certain extent you've already got quite a lot of experience in that field. So if you were completely new to a market, then no, I don't think you can. I don't think it's about age. I think it's about experience in a market and knowing a market.
Right, yeah, that makes more sense.
I would say that, we all, when you set up a business, you put everything in. I did, I put everything in. I had my house on the line. I had everything on the line for it. So I would do everything that I could to make that business succeed. And therefore you comply rather than kind of contradict. And, you just want to be everywhere. It's just a bit risky,
isn't it?
It is, because you genuinely can't afford for it not to work.
You've got to eat at the end of the month. You can't turn down money.
Absolutely.
So,
you have to make decisions. I'm not saying they're unethical or illegal or anything like that, but you take on clients that probably you wouldn't at the few years down the line.
Want to have 10 years from now.
Exactly. So, I think, when you get to a stage in business where you because everyone's business evolves over a few years, you probably add new services or solutions, or your terms will change. There will be changes to your business, and I think you learn as you go in terms of the clients that you don't want. We've all been there, and it's the ones that you do want.
It's hard, isn't it?
No, it's not easy. The best thing I've ever done is sack a couple of clients because I have a mentality now where I don't work as hard as I do to put up with that, and I never will do, and I prefer to turn over less, which is why that question annoys me.
And also,
then deal with that.
One thing that always baffles me as well is when customers behave differently with different parts of an organisation.
I love that. You should try doing different voices. It's really entertaining.
Yeah, no, we
say the finance department. Yeah. I've never done that, obviously, ever.
We get. I never pretend to be my own peer.
I've never ever done that.
We get people who, reception will put a call through and they'll say, oh, they were absolutely hopping mad, jumping up, and you could feel the anger. I go, all right, I'll give them a call. You think, oh, when am I going to get here? And they go, oh, thanks for calling back, so glad. And you think, hold on, I would never talk to someone just because I thought they were lower in an organisation's hierarchy, but then...
Yeah, that's a client I've sacked for doing that.
Yeah.
For that exact reason, is that you never ever speak to everybody how you want to be treated. So, customer care. And actually that works both ways. Because
the danger is, I suppose if it's only you on day one, right at the start, you can decide for yourself what you're willing to put up with. But as soon as you've got other people involved, you have to consider them. You talked about stakeholders. You can't then say, oh, yeah, he just shouts at everyone, just put up with it. I don't think that's fair if you're involving other people, is it?
No, and I think, the difficulty is, and I suppose, again, it's making it sound really easy when you grow in your business, you've got to mitigate the risk by having a variety of different clients in there, because the risk is you become over-reliant on one client that treats you like that, and then there's no exit. It is. But I think it's understanding from the outset, this is the expectation. And I think, going back to being yourself, it's about confidence. It's about understanding what it is, why your customers come to you, and doing what you say you're going to do, and doing what it says on the tin. In essence, again, one of the reasons that we've worked as hard as I know you guys did to become a B Corp is because that's what we believe, and we're prepared to hang our hat on that, because that's not just about, we're not doing it to tick a box. This is fundamentally who we are as a business, and this is what we believe in. And if companies don't have those similar values to them, we don't really want to work with them moving forward, because that's who our ideal customer profile is. So, for us, it's about, we were doing a lot of these things, as I'm sure you guys were anyway. It's just about that kind of framework and that formulaic
Well, when
process.
Graham first mentioned B Corp a few years back now, I must admit I didn't know a great deal about it, obviously before we started looking at it. And he said, I want to go down this road, is it okay? And my simple question to him was, well, is there anything we do now that we would have to stop?
Yeah.
And he said, well, no.
No.
And I suppose for me that was good because it meant that we must already be pretty good.
Pretty much there. Yeah.
So well, why would we not then?
Yeah.
And that was good. Last question: how do you sell the idea to a customer you don't want anymore that you aren't a good fit? How do you sack a client? Is that also a sale? Or do you just have to rip the plaster off?
Well, we operate on 12-month terms, so I think we make it on no uncertain terms that we're not renewing.
Right.
So and I think contracts are obviously there for a reason that you can negotiate in or out of them.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in that. We pussyfoot around things far too much. If you're happy, they're probably unhappy. Sorry, if you're unhappy, they're probably unhappier as well as a customer. So I think the best thing to do is, for any of that situation, it does vary, granted, but to really understand, why you're coming in from different perspectives. We were talking about a book before, which is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Yeah. On negotiation, superb. Again, writing some training this morning on objection handling and negotiation. You've got to look at it from different people's perspectives. They're unhappy about the situation probably as much as you are. Why?
Yeah. What are you not getting that we should have been doing?
Exactly.
What are we not getting from you that
negotiation's not about, you getting 100% and then getting nothing. It's about finding the balance. So it's about understanding where, things are broken down.
Because the danger is they might be unhappy with you for good reason as well.
Absolutely.
If you don't
and
find out what that is,
you need to...
Because they might not be a bad client. Mm-hmm. You might have been bad and not realised.
The word that we fail to understand from the outset of any relationship is expectation. And expectation's so essential, and that's why when we ask customers, we ask people, how well do you know your customers? They say really, really well. Well, what's your customer's expectation? And that changes quite regularly. We think when we onboard a client, it might be 3, 4, 5 years ago, that their expectations are the same. I can guarantee you they're not. Yeah. So speaking to your customers regularly and understanding what their expectations are, making sure that you're in alignment will massively reduce your complaints, because if you can understand that what expectations are, then it's
easier to deliver, isn't it?
We get into issues because one of us hasn't delivered.
Yeah.
But if we haven't understood what the expectations are, we're fighting a losing battle.
Final closing question then. It's easier. Don't worry.
God, I need some more coffee. When am I climbing Mount Everest? No, sorry.
Not that.
All right, okay.
Final question. You can talk about that if you want, but work that into the answer. There's your challenge. Final question is, what's the thing that people just keep getting wrong about sales and marketing?
Trying a bit of everything. So
the splatter gun.
Literally, yeah, absolutely. Panicking, trying a bit of everything, making lots of noise, making lots of kind of campaigns, whether it be on the phone or emails, not taking a targeted approach. Continuously people do that. And there are loads of stats out there in terms of when we engage with a customer, we don't follow up, anything up to like 90%. So, I think it's you've got to take a slow and steady pace with it. You've got to be targeted with it, and you've got to know exactly who you're aiming for. In terms of climbing, you could liken it to climbing Everest, but I'm not sure.
Well, I'm sure you could get in there about a target, the top of the peak, and the prep and stuff like that. Yeah.
I've just climbed Mont Blanc, but I'm looking for a big challenge next year. I think it might be Everest in a couple of years, but we'll wait and see.
I'm doing base camp in March.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Which isn't as exciting. It's not as tough and outrageous as it sounds.
Amazing.
But,
it does sound very impressive. Yeah. What made you do that?
I don't know. I think I'd had a knock on the head or something. I happened to know someone who does it.
Yeah.
And kind of went, fancy that? I was like, well, yeah, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as I was saying earlier, the kids kind of went, we don't like holidays anymore. So I was like, well, I'll just do something better then.
Amazing.
So yeah. It's just me on my own with nobody. Yeah. There's other people there, obviously. So I'm just like leaving the house in the morning with no idea what I'm up to. Well, listen, Jessica, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much
for having me.
My takeaway there is care, customer care. I'm ashamed that I haven't thought more about that. when talking about client service and deliverables, care is the word that I've been missing. So thank you very much for that.
More than welcome. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that. As always, lots of things to pick up and learn. We always value your feedback. Let us know in the comments. Reach out to Jessica. We'll put her contact details in the comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.